Hi, I'm Peter J. Ray. Welcome to Adventures in History. Today's topic is the 1947 Cleveland Indians AL MLB baseball season. Again, the tribe was playing in the American League, the junior circuit of Major League Baseball, and all home games were played at Cleveland Municipal Stadium downtown. The first year where no games were played at League Park. The tribe had a strong year in 1947. They finished in fourth place with a record of 80-74, 6 games over 500, winning percentage of .519, 17 games out of first. The first place team was the New York Yankees, who were 97-57, winning percentage of .630. Second place, the Detroit Tigers, 85-69, 12 games out of first. Third place, the Boston Red Sox, 83-71. Fourth place, the Cleveland Indians, 80-74. Fifth place, Connie Mack's Philadelphia Athletics, 78-76. They had a better year. Sixth place, the Chicago White Sox, 70-84. Seventh place, the Washington Senators, 64-90. And in eighth and last place, the St. Louis Browns, 59-95, winning percentage of .383, 38 games out of first. So those were the 8 teams in the American League in 1947. Opening day at the stadium the attendance was 55,014, the largest crowd in MLB history for an opening day up until that time. There was an interior fence installed in the outfield, which was a very good idea. Previously, if you wanted to hit a home run, you had to dead center. It was .470. Nobody ever did it, so it was very tough on the hitter. So this was a good idea for Bill Veeck to have more home runs. Jackie Robinson started playing for the Brooklyn Dodgers in the National League, and this was the beginning of the integration of MLB. And he played in the 1947 World Series. Also in 1947, the Tribe integrated the American League. Larry Doby played for the Tribe, and first game was July 5th. So this was really big news. Spring training was held in Tucson, Arizona. And the reason is because it was believed the Tribe could not play in the South. They're going to have black players. And they continued playing in this was the beginning of the Cactus League. For 45 years, Cleveland would have spring training in Arizona. The Chief Wahoo logo was created in 1947. During spring training, Rogers Hornsby was a coach helping with the offense. I'm reading a fine book. The title is Casey Stengel, Baseball's Greatest Character, by I don't have the author, Marty Apple. It's a wonderful book. Marty Apple, 2017. On July 17th, the St. Louis Browns signed Negro League players Henry Thompson, Willard Brown from the Kansas City Monarchs, and Lorenzo Piper Davis from the Birmingham Black Barons. Those guys didn't get as much attention, and they didn't do so well. The main focus was on Jackie Robinson and, to a lesser extent, Larry Doby in Cleveland. Now again, the owner and general manager of the Tribe in 1947 was Bill Veeck. He was the Tribe owner and GM from 1946 to 1949. In the mid-1950s, Veeck and his family lived in a suite at the Westlake Hotel in Rocky River in the Cleveland area. Here's a quote by Bill Veeck, quote, "I always hate to go to sleep. I'm afraid that something fascinating is going to happen and I'll miss it." Now in the off-season, November 9th, 1946, Veeck had his right foot amputated. He never, because of this injury in the Second World War on Bougainville Island in the Solomon Islands. So eventually they had to take off the foot, and this happened at the Cleveland Clinic. He was visited by Bob Hope. 2 weeks later, Veeck was at a Cleveland Browns game, and then he returned to the hospital after the game. In January of 1947, Veeck announced that he was getting an artificial leg, discarding his crutches. And he had a party to celebrate at the Vogue Room at the Hollenden House Hotel in Cleveland. And those who came included the so-called Jolly Set, who were Cleveland sports writers and friends. Friend Marsh Samuel wrote, quote, "He was on the dance floor all night. The blood soaked his leg and got on the floor." Yeah, he actually had 24 hours after this. He was in pain because on the stump of his foot, just lying in bed. His biographer, Paul Dixon, wrote, quote, "Foolish or not, to a nation still awed by the sacrifices of members of the armed forces, Bill Veeck's determination to dance on his injured leg became a symbol of the American spirit." Early in 1947, Bill Veeck met with Negro League star Ray Dandridge, who was playing in Mexico, and they tried to work out a deal for Dandridge to play for the Indians, but it did not work out, because Dandridge was making real good money in Mexico, and he didn't really have a guarantee of playing for Cleveland. Now, the Tribe first baseman, Eddie Robinson, said, quote, "Bill Veeck was always available to the players. Anytime a player had a problem or something he wanted to talk about, he could talk to Bill. If it was a money problem, Bill took care of his ball player. He was always doing something extra for the players, which set him apart from other tight-fisted owners. Every ball player on our team thought the world of Bill Veeck. Many in the baseball establishment were jealous of him because they didn't have his imagination." Bill Veeck. Now, Jack Graney was again the Tribe radio broadcaster on WGAR AM radio station. Graney was a player for Cleveland in 1908 and from 1910 to 1922. Played on the 1920 World Series champions Cleveland Indians. And Jack Graney was a Tribe radio broadcaster from 1932 to 1953. Jack Graney. Now the coaching staff, a new coach was Bill McKechnie, who was a Tribe coach from 1947 to 1949. McKechnie was born in 1886 in Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania, and died in 1965 in Bradenton, Florida at age 79. During his playing career, he batted .251 with 5 home runs and 240 RBIs. He had a long career as a manager and won 1,896 games, lost 1,723 for a winning percentage of .524. As a player, McKechnie played for the Pittsburgh Pirates, Boston Braves, New York Yankees, Indianapolis Hoosiers / Newark Peppers, the New York Giants, and the Cincinnati Reds between 1907 and 1920. He was a manager of the Newark Peppers, the Pittsburgh Pirates, St. Louis Cardinals, Boston Braves, and Boston Bees and Cincinnati Reds between 1915 and 1946. McKechnie won 3 World Series titles as a manager for the Pirates in 1925, manager of the Reds in 1940, and as a coach for the Tribe in 1948. McKechnie was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1962. He played in the dead ball era, and he was the first manager to win World Series titles for 2 different teams, and one of 3 managers to win National League titles with 3 different teams. They called him Deacon because he sang in a church choir and lived a quiet life. His parents were Scottish immigrants. In 1914, as a player, he had 47 stolen bases. As a manager, he was the manager of the Boston Braves in 1935 when Babe Ruth was on the team, and his Ruth's last year as a player. In the minor leagues, McKechnie played for the Wheeling Stogies, the Canton Watchmakers. Manager Lou Boudreau wrote, quote, "Pops, as I called McKechnie, became like a father to me. He knew baseball as well as anybody I ever met, and had a great influence on me and my career from that point on. I also give McKechnie credit for completing the transformation of Bob Lemon into one of the Indians and baseball's best pitchers. McKechnie also befriended Larry Doby and helped him in his first tough year with Cleveland." Bill McKechnie. Ski Malilo is back as a Tribe coach. Malilo was a Tribe coach between 1939 and 1940, in 1942, from 1945 to 1948, and in 1950. Ski Malilo. Tris Speaker was a coach. Speaker was a Tribe player from 1916 to 1918, and Tribe player manager from 1919 to 1926. One of the greatest players of all time, and he was player manager for the Indians when they won the World Series in 1920. He returned to the Tribe in 1947 and worked for the team until his death in 1958, where he worked as a Goodwill ambassador, advisor, coach, and scout. He was a consultant for Larry Doby. He mentored Doby, Luke Easter, Jim Hegan, Ray Boone, and Al Rosen. It's wonderful having Tris Speaker back. Another good thing that Bill Veeck did, bringing Tris Speaker back. Tris Speaker. George Suss returned as coach, and George Suss was a Tribe coach between 1941 and 1949. George Suss. Now, the Tribe's manager was the starting shortstop. Lou Boudreau was player manager. And as I said, he was the shortstop. Boudreau had a fine year. He batted .307 with 165 hits. He scored 79 runs, 45 doubles, wow, 3 triples, 4 home runs, 67 RBIs, a stolen base, 67 walks in 150 games. Boudreau was a Tribe player between 1938 and 1941, and a Tribe player manager from 1942 to 1950. In 1947, he placed third in the MVP voting. He played on the All-Star team. As I said, Larry Doby joined the Tribe, and Boudreau, as the first African-American in the American League, and Lou Boudreau said this to the team, quote, "Larry Doby will be wearing the same uniform as we are, so we'll fight for him as well as you'd fight for me or anybody else. Just as you fellas have to earn your job, he's going to be treated the same way. He's going to have to earn his spurs. He realizes that. We should be honored by having the first black player joining us." Lou Boudreau. Jim Hegan was the starting catcher. Hegan batted .249 with 94 hits. He scored 38 runs, 14 doubles, 5 triples, 4 home runs, 42 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, 41 walks in 135 games. And Hegan was with Cleveland from 1941 to 1942 and from 1946 to 1957. And he was one of the guys who befriended Larry Doby in his first year. Jim Hegan. Eddie Robinson was at first base. Robinson batted .245 with 78 hits. He scored 52 runs, 10 doubles, a triple, 14 home runs, 52 RBIs, a stolen base, 30 walks in 95 games. Robinson was with Cleveland in 1942 and from 1946 to 1948 and in 1957. Robinson wrote, quote, "Bob Hope was one of the minority Cleveland owners. We got a Christmas card from him, which was a big deal since he was such a big star. I showed mine to all my friends. It featured a caricature of Bob on the front, with his family sitting on his trademark long-sloped nose." Robinson used to tell a story about a pitcher's mound conference that he was involved in, and then the umpire came up to break it up so they could continue the game. And manager Lou Boudreau said to umpire Red Jones, who was a country guy, quote, "Red, what would you do in this situation?" And Jones responded, "If I had a field this big, I'd plant it all in watermelons." Eddie Robinson. Joe Gordon was the Tribe second baseman in 1947. Gordon batted .272 with 153 hits. He scored 89 runs, 27 doubles, 6 triples, 29 home runs. Wow, 93 RBIs, 7 stolen bases, 62 walks in 154 games. Gordon was born in 1915 in Los Angeles, California, and died in 1978 in Sacramento, California at age 63. For his career, he batted .268 with 253 home runs. Wow, 975 RBIs, really good. He also was a manager and won 305 games, lost 308 for a winning percentage of .498. Gordon played for the New York Yankees and Cleveland Indians between 1938 and 1950. As he was a manager of the Cleveland Indians, Detroit Tigers, Kansas City Athletics, and Kansas City Royals between 1958 and 1969. Gordon was a 9-time All-Star from 1939 to 1943, and from 1946 to 1949. He won 5 World Series titles, 1938, 1939, 41, and 43 with the Yankees, and in 1948 with Cleveland. He was the American League MVP in 1942 with the Yankees. Gordon is in the Tribe Hall of Fame. He was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 2009. They called him Flash, which is a reference to the comic book character Flash Gordon. It was said that he had acrobatic defense. He's second all-time in home runs, first second baseman behind Robinson Cano. Gordon went to the University of Oregon and played on the baseball and football teams, was a halfback on the football team. Also, he participated in gymnastics, soccer, and was a long jumper. He played violin in the college orchestra. After the 1941 World Series, Yankee manager Joe McCarthy said, quote, "The greatest all-around ball player I ever saw is Joe Gordon. Gordon was in the U.S. Army in the Second World War from 1944 to 1945, and he played a major role with the tribe in befriending Larry Doby. He's probably Doby's best friend with the Indians. The minor leagues, Gordon played for the Newark Bears, Oakland Oaks, Oregon Ducks, San Francisco Seals. The tribe acquired him in a trade for Allie Reynolds with the Yankees. And he made the All-Star team in 1947. Eddie Robinson wrote, quote, "Joe Gordon was the leader of the ball club, the one we always looked to when things were going badly. He had a great sense of humor and could be very funny. Joe Gordon." Ken Keltner was the third baseman. Keltner batted .257 with 139 hits. He scored 49 runs, 29 doubles, 3 triples, 11 home runs, 76 RBIs, 5 stolen bases, 59 walks in 151 games. And Keltner was with Cleveland from 1937 to 1944, and from 1946 to 1949. Ken Keltner. Dale Mitchell was in left field. Mitchell batted .316, really good. 156 hits, 69 runs, 16 doubles, 10 triples, a home run, 34 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, 23 walks in 123 games. And Mitchell was with Cleveland from 1946 to 1956. Dale Mitchell. George Metcavich was in center field. They called him Catfish. Metcavich batted .254 with 120 hits. He scored 68 runs, 22 doubles, 7 triples, 5 home runs, 40 RBIs, 5 stolen bases, 32 walks in 126 games. Metcavich was born in 1920 in Angels Camp, California, and died in 1995 in Costa Mesa, California at age 74. For his career, he batted .261 with 47 home runs and 373 RBIs. Metcavich played for the Boston Red Sox, Cleveland Indians, Chicago White Sox, Pittsburgh Pirates, Chicago Cubs, and Milwaukee Braves from 1943 to 1954. His parents were Croatian immigrants from Europe. On a fishing trip, he stepped on a catfish and cut his foot and acquired his nickname. He won an American League title in 1946 with Boston. He was the manager of the San Diego Padres in the Pacific Coast League in the minors from 1957 to 1960. Metcavich appeared in several Hollywood movies from 1949 to 1952, including Three Little Worlds. In 1950, he was in a slapstick comedy with Red Skelton. He's also in the Pacific Coast League Hall of Fame. The minor leagues, Metcavich played for the Hartford Bucks, Henderson Oilers, and Vancouver Mounties. Catfish Metcavich. Hank Edwards was in right field. Edwards batted .260 with 102 hits. He scored 54 runs, 12 doubles, 3 triples, 15 home runs, 59 RBIs, a stolen base, 31 walks in 108 games. Edwards was with Cleveland from 1941 to 1943 and from 1946 to 1949. Hank Edwards. Now the bench players included Hal Peck, who was an outfielder. Peck batted .293 with 115 hits. He scored 58 runs, 18 doubles, 2 triples, 8 home runs, 44 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, 27 walks in 114 games. Peck was born in 1917 in Big Bend, Wisconsin, and died in 1995 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin at age 77. For his career, he batted .279 with 15 home runs and 112 RBIs. Peck played for the Brooklyn Dodgers, Philadelphia Athletics, and Cleveland Indians from 1943 to 1949. He won a World Series title in 1948 with the Tribe. He lost two toes in a shooting accident, in 1942, shooting rats on his farm. This was after he started his career. In 1940 with the Milwaukee Brewers, the owner of the team was Bill Veeck, and he was Veeck's favorite player. That's why he brought him to Cleveland. In 1948, Peck led the American League in pinch hits, and he played in the minor leagues for the Bloomington Bloomers. Hal Peck. Les Fleming played some first base. Fleming batted .242 with 68 hits. He scored 39 runs, 14 doubles, 2 triples, 4 home runs, 43 RBIs, 53 walks in 103 games. Fleming was with Cleveland from 1941 to 1942, and from 1945 to 1947, so this was the end of his time in Cleveland. His MLB career continued until 1949. Les Fleming. Pat Seary played some outfield. Seary batted .171 with 37 hits. He scored 24 runs, 4 doubles, a triple, 11 home runs, 29 RBIs, 34 walks, 66 strikeouts in 82 games. And Siri was with Cleveland from 1943 to 1948. Fat Pat Siri. Al Lopez was a spare catcher. Lopez batted .262 with 33 hits. He scored 9 runs, had a double, 14 RBIs, a stolen base, 9 walks in 61 games. Lopez was born in 1908 in Tampa, Florida, and died in 2005 in Tampa at age 97. During his playing career, he batted .261 with 51 home runs and 652 RBIs. He had a long career as a manager, won 1,410 games, lost 1,004 for a winning percentage of .584, really good. As a player, Lopez played for the Brooklyn Robins, Brooklyn Dodgers, Boston Bees, Pittsburgh Pirates, and Cleveland Indians from 1928 to 1947. So this was the end of his playing career. He was a manager of the Cleveland Indians and Chicago White Sox between 1951 and 1969. Lopez was a 2-time All-Star in 1931 with the Dodgers and 1941 with the Pirates. He's in the Tribe Hall of Fame and was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1977. They called him El Señor. He had because of his Spanish ancestry and gentlemanly nature. He set an MLB record for career games played by a catcher, 1,918, which stood for decades. His winning percentage as a manager of .584 is 4th best all-time for managers who managed at least 2,000 games. He won an American League title in 1954 as the manager of the Tribe, and also in 1959 with the White Sox, which broke the Yankee monopoly on going to the World Series between 1949 and 1964. His parents were immigrants from Spain, actually moved to Cuba first. In Tampa, there's Al Lopez Field, named after him. As I said, his parents immigrated to Cuba in the 1890s, and in 1906, his family moved to the U.S. His father worked in a cigar factory in Tampa. In 1916, Lopez dropped out of high school to play minor league baseball. His defense and leadership abilities and working with pitchers were what he became known for. And his games played record was broken by Bob Boone and Gary Carter. In 1956, when the Tribe was slumping and Al Rosen was injured, the fans were booing Al Rosen, and Lopez was very upset by the lack of support for the team and with the fans' treatment of Al Rosen, and he resigned as Cleveland Indians manager. As manager, he never shouted or scolded his players. Bill Veeck said that Lopez's, quote, completely relaxed leadership, quote, squeezed every drop of talent out of his teams. In 1954 in Tampa, the Al Lopez Field was built in the minor league field. In 1957, as manager of the White Sox had spring training there and played at Al Lopez Field. There was an incident where the umpire threatened to throw Lopez out of a game. Lopez said, quote, "You can't throw me out of this ballpark. This is my ballpark, Al Lopez Field." But regardless, he was ejected from that game. Lopez said, quote, "He threw me out of my own ballpark." So he had a good sense of humor. The Tampa Bay Rays have an Al Lopez Award for the outstanding rookie in spring training. That's a current thing. His boyhood home was renovated and became the Tampa Baseball Museum at the Al Lopez House. Lopez died of a heart attack at his son's home 4 days after the White Sox won the 2005 World Series, their first title in 88 years, and first American League title since 1959 when Lopez was the manager. Lopez was the last live person to play MLB in the 1920s. In minor leagues, he played for the Tampa Smokers, Jacksonville Tars, Macon Peaches, and Atlanta Crackers. I'm reading a fine book. The title is Al Lopez, The Life of Baseball's El Señor by Wes Singletary, 1999. Jim Landis wrote, quote, "The thing about Mr. Lopez, he never gave up. And as long as he didn't give up, we couldn't give up either." Landis was a player for Lopez with the White Sox. Wes Singletary wrote, quote, "On numerous occasions, Al Lopez wrenched himself away from his beloved golf game, extending his warmth, time, and memories to me. His ready and good-natured assistance reminds one of why he's so revered both within and outside baseball. Lopez started the minor leagues in 1925 at age 16 playing for the Tampa Smokers. As Tony Pizzo wrote, quote, Al Lopez was a real hero to everyone from Ybor City. It didn't matter that you were Spanish, Italian, or what. We all stuck together. Lopez had a lifelong passion for golf. He played with Brooklyn when the manager was Casey Stengel and learned Stengel's tricks. And Stengel would have Lopez run the team from behind the plate. Stengel said this about Lopez as the catcher. When Lopez was catching, quote, I could sit back and nap. His son, the son of Lopez, Al Lopez Jr., said, quote, my dad felt that he should always go out of his way to be nice to people. He always told me, if you can be nice to somebody, do it. Even if they're not being nice to you, be nice to them. That was my father's code. 1940 season, the Boston Braves were having financial trouble, and Lopez was sold to the Pittsburgh Pirates. The general manager of Boston said, quote, well, fellows, I've just sold Al Lopez to Pittsburgh. It was the hardest job I've ever done in my 50 years of baseball. I've never seen a better catcher in the half-century I've been connected with the game. I've just told Al, however, that he'll never have to want for a job as long as I am alive and still in baseball. He's the sort of fellow that can work for me anytime. After the 1946 season, Lopez was traded to the Tribe for Gene Woodling. As I said, 47 was Lopez's last year as a player. Bill Veeck was interested in hiring Lopez to be the Tribe manager in 1948. Lopez was not interested. He didn't want people to think that he was out to get Lou Boudreau's job, and Boudreau was retained after a fan protest. Although later, Al Lopez was hired as the Cleveland Indians manager. Al Lopez. Eddie Bachman was a utility player. Bachman batted .258 with 17 hits. He scored 8 runs, had 2 doubles, 2 triples, a home run, 14 RBIs, 5 walks in 46 games. Bachman was born in 1920 in Santa Ana, California, and died in 2011 in Millbrae, California at age 91. For his career, he batted .230 with 11 home runs and 56 RBIs. Bachman played for the New York Yankees, Cleveland Indians, and Pittsburgh Pirates between 1946 and 1949. From 1943 to 1946, he was in the U.S. military in the Second World War. In the minors, he was a player-manager for the Albuquerque Dukes, Visalia Cubs, and Amarillo Gold Sox. He worked as a scout for the Phillies and signed Bob Boone, Larry Boa, Joe Charbonneau, who played for Cleveland, Buck Martinez, and Dick Ruthven. Really good. He was a scout for the Phillies for 30 years. He was also a scout for the Florida Marlins. Eddie Bachman. Jack Conway played some shortstop. Conway batted .180 with 9 hits. He scored 3 runs, had 2 doubles, 5 RBIs, 3 walks in 34 games. And Conway was with Cleveland in 1941 and from 1946 to 1947. This was the end of his time in Cleveland. His MLB career continued until 1948. Jack Conway. Larry Doby played some infield. Doby batted .156 with 5 hits. He scored 3 runs, had a double, 2 RBIs, a walk in 29 games. Doby was born in 1923 in Camden, South Carolina, and died in 2003 in Montclair, New Jersey at age 79. For his career, he batted .283 with 253 home runs, really good, and 970 RBIs, really good. As a manager, he was 37-50 for a winning percentage of .425. In the Negro Leagues, Doby played for the Newark Eagles from 1942 to 1944 and from 1946 to 1947. In the MLB, Doby played for the Cleveland Indians, Chicago White Sox, and Detroit Tigers between 1947 and 1959. In Japan, he played for the Chunichi Dragons in 1962. Doby was a manager for the White Sox in 1978. He was a 7-time All-Star from 1949 to 1955 with the Tribe. Wow. He won a World Series title in 1948 with the Tribe. Doby was a 2-time American League home run leader in 1952 and 1954, and was the American League RBI leader in 1954, again with the Tribe. The Tribe retired as number 14. He's in the Tribe Hall of Fame. He was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1998. He's the second black player in MLB and the first in the American League. Second World War, Doby was in the U.S. Navy. 1946, he won a Negro League World Series title with the Newark Eagles. July of 1947, 3 months after Jackie Robinson integrated MLB, Doby signed with Cleveland under the leadership of Bill Veeck. He went directly from the Negro Leagues to the Major League Baseball. Doby and Satchel Paige were the first black players to win an MLB World Series title in 1948 with the Tribe. He also won an American League title in 1954 with the Tribe. He was the second black manager in MLB after Frank Robinson with Cleveland. He played briefly for the Harlem Renaissance, a pro basketball team. Bill Veeck paid the Newark Eagles $15,000 to purchase Doby. Joe Gordon befriended him with the Tribe. In 1947, Doby and Jackie Robinson talked on the telephone a lot to encourage each other. Bob Feller wrote, quote, "Larry Doby was a great American. He served the country in World War II and was a great ball player. He was kind of like Buzz Aldrin, the second man on the moon, because he was the second African American in the majors, behind Jackie Robinson. He was just as good a ball player, an exciting player, and a very good teammate." Game 4 of the 1948 World Series, Doby hit a home run, and there's a famous photo of Doby with Steve Gromack, who pitched a complete game and won that game. And the photo shows them embracing, very happy. He hit .318 in the 48 World Series. After the World Series, there was a celebratory parade in Paterson, New Jersey for him. He was the 1950 Tribe Man of the Year. The 1954 All-Star Game at the stadium, Doby hit a home run, helping the American League to win 11-9. Played in Cleveland. He was a scout for the Expos. He was a manager in Venezuela in the winter, and was a Tribe coach in 1974. He's a White Sox coach and manager. He was a director of communications for the New Jersey Nets in the NBA. Doby said, quote, "You know why I hit so well in Washington and St. Louis? They were major Jim Crow seating parks, and when I came to bat, I knew where the noise was coming from and who was making it. I felt like a quarterback with 5,000 cheerleaders calling his name. You know, most of them couldn't afford to be there. I never forgot that." The 1997 All-Star Game, which was played in Cleveland at Jacobs Field, Doby threw out the first pitch. After being elected into the Baseball Hall of Fame, Doby said, quote, "This is just a tremendous feeling. It's kind of like a bale of cotton has been on your shoulders and now it's off." Gene Mauch, a longtime MLB manager, mostly with the Montreal Expos, said, quote, "You have to be some kind of special person to go through what Larry and Jackie Robinson went through. They both are. I'm not sure there's a player in the game today who could handle it." He was one of 4 players to play in the Negro League and MLB World Series, including Satchel Paige, Monte Irvin, and Willie Mays. He's in the South Carolina Hall of Fame and the New Jersey Hall of Fame. Doby was offered a college basketball scholarship by Claire B. at Long Island University and played briefly. When he signed with the Tribe, and Bill Veeck said to the team, quote, "I understand that some of you said, if a nigger joins the club, you're leaving. Well, you can leave right now." Veeck said to Doby, quote, "We're in this together, kid." And there was a lifelong trust and friendship between Bill Veeck and Larry Doby. Al Rosen said, quote, "I saw Larry get knocked down on 4 straight pitches by Dizzy Trout of the Detroit Tigers, but Larry just got up, brushed himself off, and walked to first base. I've always admired him." Effa Manley, the Newark Eagles owner, he played for her, said, quote, "I'm glad, of course, that Larry is getting the chance to be our first representative in the white major leagues, but I'm afraid our team will be lost without him. He's a great player." Doby hit .415, was hitting .415 in the Negro National League and leading the league with 14 home runs when he signed with Cleveland. When he played his last game for the Newark Eagles, there was a ceremony at home plate before the game, and Doby was given a toilet kit with shaving lotion, soap, brush, and a comb by his teammates. I'm reading another fine book, Larry Doby, The Struggle of the American League's First Black Player by Joseph Thomas Moore, 1988. The famous photo after Game 4 of the 1948 World Series, Steve Gromack, who was in the picture, went home to Hamtramck, Michigan, and an old friend was angry with Gromack about that picture. And Gromack said, quote, We played together, and Larry and I were friends. Hell, that was the greatest thrill I ever had in my life, winning a World Series game. What the hell? Larry wins a World Series game for me, and I'm not going to show my appreciation? Because actually, Doby had hit a home run in the game. Joseph Thomas Moore wrote, quote, "Of all the plaques, trophies, rings, and mementos awarded to Larry Doby over the years, he cherishes the 1948 picture with Steve Gromek the most." Doby said, quote, "That's the one I like the best. It was exciting to me then, and it's still exciting to me now. The picture was more rewarding and happy for me than actually hitting the home run. The picture is not just about me, it shows what feelings should be, not just in sports. I think enlightenment can come from such a picture." Doby's grandfather, Burl Doby, was born a slave in South Carolina. Doby went to high school in Paterson, New Jersey. One of his neighbors was Charlie Jameson, who played for the Tribe and was a center fielder on the 1920 when they won the World Series. Doby graduated from high school in 1942, and that summer, right after high school, he played for the Newark Eagles and hit .391 in 50 games. Went to college at the Long Island University of New York City and then transferred to Virginia Union. Then was drafted into the U.S. Navy in the Second World War and spent time at the Great Lakes Naval Training Center in Chicago. Became friends with Marion Motley, who was became a star running back for the Cleveland Browns, tremendous player. And Doby spent time at the Ulithi Atoll in the U.S. Navy out in the Pacific Ocean, southwest of Guam and northeast of Palau, in the Federated States of Micronesia. He was there for a year. He spent time on Mog Island in Ulithi. Doby, while he was there, he heard on the radio that Jackie Robinson had signed with the Dodgers. And Doby said, quote, "When I heard about Jackie, I decided to concentrate on baseball. I forgot about going back to college." He was discharged from the Navy in January of '46, played baseball in Puerto Rico, and signed with the San Juan Senators for 2 months. Then returned and played for the Newark Eagles in the Negro National League. He married Helen Curry on August 10th in Paterson, New Jersey. He won a Negro League World Series title in 1946 with Newark, then played winter baseball in Puerto Rico. By 1947, he was back with the Eagles, and Doby had this to say about the Negro Leagues, quote, "We were playing a game we loved. We had good times on our bus, fans in every town." On Sunday, July 6th, the Tribe and Chicago White Sox were playing at Comiskey Park, a doubleheader, and there was a big crowd. As word spread that Doby was with the Tribe, the box seats were all sold. Many black churches in Chicago ended their services early so fans could come to the game and see Larry Doby. Entire black congregations went directly from church to the ballpark, and there were 31,566 fans, 30% black. When the Tribe returned to Cleveland, Marion Motley and Bill Willis, Cleveland Browns players, met Doby at the train station. In Cleveland, Doby had lunch with Motley and Quincy Troop, who was star player for the Cleveland Buckeyes, and Candy Jim Taylor, tremendous Negro League player and manager of the Chicago American Giants. Doby stayed at the Majestic Hotel in Cleveland, had tremendous support from the black community in Cleveland. A steady stream of well-wishers came to see him. The largest 1947 MLB crowd was in August at Yankee Stadium. The Tribe and Yankees, 62,537 fans coming to see Larry Doby and the Indians and Yankees. Doby was befriended on the Tribe by Joe Gordon, Jim Hegan, Steve Gromek, Bob Lemon, and Coach Bill McKechnie. In 1955, Doby set a record in the American League with 158 games without an error. Larry Doby. Hank Ruskowski was the spare catcher. Ruskowski batted .259 with 7 hits. He scored 5 runs, had 2 doubles, 3 home runs, 4 RBIs, 2 walks in 23 games. Ruskowski was with Cleveland from 1944 to 1945, and in 1947, this was the end of his MLB career. Hank Ruskowski. Joe Frazier played some outfield, not the heavyweight boxing champion from the 70s. Frazier batted .071 with 1 hit and 14 at-bats. He scored a run, had a double, and a walk in 9 games. Frazier was born in 1922 in Liberty, North Carolina, and died in 2011 in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma at age 88. During his career, he batted .241 with 10 home runs and 45 RBIs. Frazier played for the Cleveland Indians, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Redlegs, and Baltimore Orioles between 1947 and 1956. He was the manager of the New York Mets in 1976 and 77. He was also a manager in the minors in the Mets organization. Won a pennant in 1971 with Visalia. He also played with or managed in the minors with Memphis and Victoria, and won Texas League titles. 1975, he won a title with the Tidewater Tides, so he had a lot of success in the minors as a manager. He played for the Baltimore Orioles, Cedar Rapids Raiders, Memphis Chickasaws. He also played in Venezuela for the Gavilanes de Maracaibo and Navegantes del Magallanes and the Patriotas de Venezuela. Joe Frazier. Ted Sepkowski was an outfield, played some outfield. Sepkowski batted .125 with 1 hit and 8 at-bats. He had a double and a walk in 10 games. Sepkowski played for Cleveland in 1942, and from 1946 to 1947, this was the end of his MLB career in 1947. Ted Sepkowski. Al Rosen was a utility player. Rosen batted .111 with 1 hit and 9 at-bats. He scored a run in 7 games. Rosen was born in 1924 in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and died in 2015 in Rancho Mirage, California at age 91. For his career, he batted .285 with 192 hits and 717 RBIs. Rosen played for the Cleveland Indians from 1947 to 1956. He was a 4-time American League All-Star from 1952 to 1955. He won a World Series title in 1948 with the Tribe. Rosen was a 2-time American League home run leader in 1950 and 1953, a 2-time American League RBI leader in 1952 and 1953. He was the American League MVP in 1953. I had a bobblehead doll of him that the Tribe gave away. I think it was 2003. He's in the Tribe Hall of Fame. They called him Flip and the Hebrew Hammer. He had 4 years in the U.S. Navy in the Second World War. Rosen was on the cover of Sports Illustrated in 1955. He worked for 20 years as a stockbroker after his playing career, and then he was the New York Yankees, worked for the New York Yankees and Houston Astros in the front office, and he was the San Francisco Giants president, CEO, and GM. He was the only MVP to become the executive of the year. As a boy, his favorite players were Lou Gehrig and Hank Greenberg. In the Second World War, he was on an assault boat He was on the assault boat landing in the Battle of Okinawa. In 1948, in the American Association, he was his rookie year. It was his rookie year. In his rookie year in MLB in 1950, he has hit 37 home runs, which was a record broke by Mark McGwire in 1987, for a rookie hitting home runs. Bill James said that Rosen's 1953 season was the best ever by a third baseman. Casey Stengel said this about Al Rosen, quote, that feller's a ball player. He'll give you the works every time. Gets all the hits, gives you the hard tag in the field. That feller's a real competitor. You bet your sweet cursed life. The San Francisco Giants with the San Francisco Giants in 1989. He won a National League title and was Executive of the Year. There's a 1979 Miller Lite TV commercial, Great Taste, Less Filling. Al Rosen and Spec Richardson, another GM, 2 executives, were talking trade in the commercial. And it turns out they were trading baseball cards. It was a very popular commercial in the summer of 1979 and in the World Series. In the 2010 baseball movie, it was narrated by Dustin Hoffman. Hoffman said, quote, this was about Jews in baseball, an American love story. And he had this to say about, Rosen was Jewish and had this to say about anti-Semitism, quote, there's a time that you let it be known that enough is enough. You flatten them. Rosen said, quote, the greatest thrill in the world is to end the game with a home run and watch everybody else walk off the field while you're running the bases out. Teammate Early Wen said, quote, people think Mickey Mantle is the toughest hitter in the league, but I can usually get him out if I don't make a mistake. The real toughest clutch hitter is Yogi Berra. As you change speeds and move around, Berra goes right with you. Al Rosen does the same thing. but fortunately he's playing third behind me, so I don't have to pitch to him. Believe me, the two best clutch hitters are Yogi Berra and Al Rosen. Most of us pitchers wish to hell they'd switch to golf. Bob Hope appeared in an I Love Lucy TV episode in 1958, said, quote, "Oh no, Al Rosen hits a home run, and I gotta miss it." Rosen is in the National Jewish Sports Hall of Fame and in the International Jewish Sports Hall of Fame. Al Rosen. Felix Makowitz played some outfield. Makowitz batted 5 times, did not have a hit in 2 games. Makowitz was with Cleveland from 1945 to 1947. This was the end of his MLB career in 1947. Felix Makowitz. Heinz Becker batted twice, did not have a hit in 2 games. Becker was with Cleveland from 1946 to 1947, and this was the end of his MLB career. Heinz Becker. Jimmy Wasdale batted once, did not have a hit in 1 game. Wasdale was with Cleveland in 1946 and 1947, and this was then the end of his MLB career. Jimmy Wasdale. The pitching staff was led by the ace pitcher Bob Feller, who was 20-11 with an ERA of 2.68, 42 games, 37 starts, 20 complete games, 5 shutouts, 3 saves, 299 innings pitched, and 196 strikeouts. Feller batted 184 with 18 hits. He scored 8 runs, had 3 doubles, 2 triples, 7 RBIs, 8 walks, and struck out 38 times. Feller was with Cleveland from 1936 to 1941, and from 1945 to 1956, and was a Tribe Goodwill ambassador till the end of his life. He had 2 more one-hitters in 1947 and on April 22 and May 2. In the off-season, before the season, he formed Bob Feller's All-Stars and he barnstormed, playing exhibition games around the country. And there had been a limit for the players doing this to 10 days. He got permission to extend it to 30 games from the commissioner. They traveled by air and chartered 2 DC-3s for a month, Flying Tiger Airlines. It was Bob Feller's All-Stars against Satchel Paige's All-Stars. And the players included Quincy Troop and Sam Jethro, who played for the Cleveland Buckeyes. They were on Satchel Paige's team. Also, MLB players Stan Musial, Jeff Heath, former Cleveland Indian, Bob Lemon, Jim Hegan, and Phil Rizzuto. Bob Feller said, quote, "Satchel Paige and I were friends, teammates, and business associates. Those games showed the world that good black ball players could succeed against good white players." Feller's 1947 income was $150,000 from his salary, incentives, barnstorming, and a book that came out, The Strikeout Story. He had a weekly radio show and a newspaper column and also made personal appearances. He endorsed Wheaties and Wilson's Sporting Goods. In 1987, Feller was invited to a Negro League old-timers reunion in Kentucky as recognition of historic help in giving black players a chance against white players. He was the only white player invited. In 1947, Feller's salary was $70,000, and he had an attendance clause. Bill Veeck said, quote, "Bob Feller now owns everything to the left of first base." January of 47, Feller had an endorsement with a popsicle company. There were 120,000 Bob Feller comic books and 75,000 Bob Feller bat pens. Feller announced that he was pitching in Cuba and in the winter and was going to make $18,000. The MLB commissioner, Happy Chandler, prohibited all MLB players from playing in Cuba. It's rather high-handed of him. Feller was also an All-Star in 1947. Bob Feller. Don Black was 10-12 with an ERA of 3.92, 30 games, 28 starts, 8 complete games, 3 shutouts, 190 and 2/3 innings pitched, and 72 strikeouts. Black batted 182 with 12 hits. He scored 2 runs, had 2 doubles, 8 RBIs, a walk, and struck out 14 times. Black was with Cleveland from 1946 to 1948. He threw a no-hitter on July 10th at the stadium, the first no-hitter ever thrown at the stadium. Well, that was really something. Don Black. Red Embry was 8-10 with an ERA of 3.15. 27 games, 21 starts, 6 complete games, 162 and 2/3 innings pitched, and 56 strikeouts. Embry batted 173 with 9 hits. He scored 5 runs, had 3 RBIs, a walk, and struck out 14 times. Embry was with Cleveland from 1941 to 1942, and from 1944 to 1947. This was the end of his time in Cleveland. His MLB career continued until 1949. Red Embry. Al Gettle was 11-10 with an ERA of 3.20, 31 games, 21 starts, 9 complete games, 2 shutouts, 149 innings pitched, and 64 strikeouts. Gettle batted .294 with 15 hits. He scored 7 runs, had 2 doubles, a triple, 4 RBIs. Gettle was born in 1917 in Norfolk, Virginia, and died in 2005 in Norfolk at age 87. For his career, he was 38-45 with an ERA of 4.28 and 310 strikeouts. Gettle pitched for the New York Yankees, Cleveland Indians, Chicago White Sox, Washington Senators, New York Giants, and St. Louis Cardinals between 1945 and 1955. They called him Two-Ton. Al Gettle. Mel Harder was 6-4 with an ERA of 4.50, 15 games, all starts, 4 complete games, a shutout, 80 innings pitched, and 17 strikeouts. Harder batted .179 with 5 hits. He scored 2 runs, had a double, an RBI, and 2 walks, and struck out 10 times. Harder was a Tribe player between 1928 and 1947, so this was the end of his long playing career. But the following year, he was the Tribe pitching coach from 1948 to 1963. He threw the first pitch at Cleveland Municipal Stadium in 1932, and he threw the last ceremonial pitch at the stadium in 1993. Mel Harder. Ed Kleeman was a relief pitcher. Kleeman was 5-4 with an ERA of 3.03, 58 games, 17 saves. He led the American League in saves, 92 innings pitched, and 21 strikeouts. Kleeman batted .105 with 2 hits. He scored a run, had an RBI, 2 walks, and struck out 6 times. And Kleeman was with Cleveland from 1943 to 1948. Ed Kleeman. Bob Lemon was 11-5 with an ERA of 3.44, 37 games, 15 starts, 6 complete games, a shutout, 3 saves, 167 and a third innings pitched, and 65 strikeouts. Lemon batted .321 with 18 hits. He scored 11 runs, had a double, 3 triples, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, 6 walks, and he struck out 9 times in 47 games. And Lemon was with Cleveland from 1941 to 1942, and from 1946 to 1958. This was his first pretty good year as a pitcher. Bob Lemon. Brian Stevens was 5-10 with an ERA of 4.01, 31 games, 5 starts, a complete game, a save, 92 innings pitched, and 34 strikeouts. Stevens batted .111 with 3 hits. He scored a run and struck out 8 times. Stevens was born in 1920 in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and died in 1991 in Santa Ana, California at age 71. For his career, he was 8-16 with an ERA of 5.16 and 214 2/3 innings pitched. Stevens pitched for the Cleveland Indians and St. Louis Browns between 1947 and 1948. He was 6'4" between 1943 and 1945. He was in the U.S. Army in the Second World War. In the minor leagues, he played for the Oakland Oaks, Tacoma Tigers, and Wilkes-Barre Barons. Brian Stevens. Steve Gromek was 3-5 with an ERA of 3.74, 29 games, 7 starts, 4 saves, 84 and a third innings pitched, and 39 strikeouts. Gromek batted .318 with 7 hits. He scored a run, had a double, an RBI, and struck out 5 times. And Gromek was with Cleveland from 1941 to 1953. Steve Gromek. Les Willis was 0-2 with an ERA of 3.48, 22 games, 2 starts, a save, 44 innings pitched, and 10 strikeouts. Willis batted .091 with 1 hit and 11 at-bats. His MLB career was just with Cleveland in 1947. In the minor league, he was born in 1908 in Nacogdoches, Texas, and died in 1982 in Jasper, Texas at age 74. In the minor leagues, he played for the Baton Rouge Solons, El Dorado Lions, Fort Worth Cats, Jackson Senators, Joplin Miners, Louisville Colonels, Memphis Chickasaws, Pine Bluff Judges, and the Shreveport Sports. Les Willis. Bob Kuzava was 1-1 with an ERA of 4.15, 4 games, all starts, a complete game, a shutout, 21 2/3 innings pitched, and 9 strikeouts. Kuzava batted .111 with 1 hit and 9 at-bats. He had an RBI. Kuzava was with Cleveland from 1946 to 1947. This was the end of his time in Cleveland, but his MLB career continued until 1957. Bob Kuzava. Roger Wolf had no decisions and an ERA of 3.94, 7 games, 2 starts, 16 innings pitched, and 5 strikeouts. Wolf batted 3 times, did not have a hit, and struck out twice. He was born in 1911 in Evansville, Illinois, and died in 1994 in Chester, Illinois, at age 82. For his career, he was 52 and 69, with an ERA of 3.41 and 430 strikeouts. Wolf pitched for the Philadelphia Athletics, Washington Senators, Cleveland Indians, and Pittsburgh Pirates between 1941 and 1947. In the minor leagues, he played for the Danville Veterans, Keokuk Indians, Denver Bears, Cedar Rapids Raiders, Dallas Steers, Dayton Ducks, Fort Worth Cubs, and Terre Haute Tots. Now, the Fort Worth Cats. Roger Wolf. Ernest Groth had no decisions and an ERA of 0.00. 2 games, 1 1/3 innings pitched, and 1 strikeout. He did not bat. He was born in 1922 in Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania, the home of Joe Namath, and died in 2004 in Beaver Falls at age 82. For his career, he was 0-1 with an ERA of 4.91 and 2 strikeouts. Roth pitched for the Cleveland Indians and Chicago White Sox between 1947 and 1949. He was in the U.S. Army for 3 years in the Second World War. After he retired, he ran Groth's Nursery and worked for Standard Steel. He had a 1-hitter in the minor leagues with the Wilkes-Barre Barons. He also played for the Oakland Oaks in the minor leagues. Ernest Groth. Cal Dorsett had no decisions and an ERA of 27.00. 2 games, 1 1/3 innings pitched, and 4 earned runs allowed and 1 strikeout. He had 1 plate appearance, but no official at-bats. He must have walked or got on by an error. He was with Cleveland from 1940 to 1941, and in 1947, this was the end of his MLB career. Cal Dorsett. Lyman Lind had no decisions and an ERA of 27.00. Also, 1 game, only 2/3 of an innings pitched, and 2 earned runs allowed. He did not bat. Lind was born in 1920 in Rolling Prairie, Wisconsin, and died in 1995 in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin at age 75. For his career, he just pitched in 4 games and 10 2/3 innings pitched, and an ERA of 6.75. His career was just with the Cleveland Indians between 1947 and 1948. In the Second World War, he was in the U.S. Army Air Force. In the minor leagues, he played for the Oklahoma City Indians and had a no-hitter. He also played in the minors for the Green Bay Blue Jays, Greenville Spinners, Hollywood Stars, San Diego Padres, and Portland Beavers. Lyman Lind. And finally, Gene Bearden had no decisions and an ERA of 81.00. 1 game, 1/3 of an innings pitched, and 3 earned runs allowed. He did not bat. Bearden was born in 1920 in Lexa, Arkansas, and died in 2004 in Alexander City, Alabama at age 83. For his career, he was 45 and 38 with an ERA of 3.96 and 259 strikeouts. Bearden pitched for the Cleveland Indians, Washington Senators, Detroit Tigers, St. Louis Browns, and Chicago White Sox between 1947 and 1953. He won a World Series title in 1948 with the Tribe. He was the American League ERA leader in 1948. In the Second World War, he was in the U.S. Navy. Was seriously injured, and he was on a there was a battle. He was in the Pacific Ocean on a lake cruiser, the USS Helena, which was struck by Japanese torpedoes. Bearden was in the engine room. The ship sank. He got a fractured skull and a crushed kneecap. He had metal plates put in his head and knee. 1948 with the Tribe, he won 20 games. The Tribe and the Red Sox finished the regular season in a tie, and in a 1-game playoff, Bearden pitched a complete game and won that game 8-3. In the World Series, Game 3, he threw a shutout and helped Cleveland win that game 2-0. Game 6, he got the save in the World Series, which gave Cleveland the World Series championship. So he was a real hero in 1948. In the off seasons, he worked in the motion picture industry and was an extra in films. He was a youth baseball coach. He was a knuckleball pitcher. In the minor leagues, Bearden pitched for the Martinsburg Manufacturers, Miami Beach Flamingos, Moultrie Packers, Seattle Rainiers, Binghamton Triplets. He was acquired in a trade from the Yankees with Hal Peck and Al Gettle for Ray Mack and Sherman Lother. Gene Bearden. After the season, the World Series was played. The New York Yankees, the American League champions, defeated the Brooklyn Dodgers, the National League champions, 4-3. So it was a memorable all New York City World Series, and there were quite a few of these Yankees-Dodgers series. Hall of Famers in the World Series included umpire Bill McCowan for the Yankees, Bucky Harris, the manager, Yogi Berra, Joe DiMaggio, and Phil Rizzuto. For the Dodgers, Pee Wee Reese, Jackie Robinson, Duke Snider, and Archie Vaughan. I'm reading a fine book. It's called The Era, 1947 to 1957, when the Yankees, the Giants, and the Dodgers ruled the world, by Roger Kahn, 1993. 1946, Jackie Robinson, who played in the World Series, again, the year before with Montreal in the minor leagues. After one game, there was a big crowd outside of Montreal Stadium. They were waiting to see him, and Robinson became unnerved and ran away. Then he wept, and he said, quote, "These people wanted to pat me on the back. There was no menace in them. When I was running, I started to think, here I am a black man, and these people are running after me, not to lynch me. These white people are running after me to shake my hand. When I thought that, how wonderful that was, I started to cry." So this was really something. The first MLB player, he gets to the World Series and helps the team win a National League title. Before the 1947 season, Brooklyn Dodger manager Leo DeRocher was suspended for a year by MLB Commissioner Happy Chandler for conduct detrimental to baseball. Because he associated with gamblers. He was divorced twice. He was having an affair with actress Lorraine Day, whom he married, and he was Catholic. He really got in trouble with the Catholic Church, who organized an anti-DeRocher boycott. So Bert Schotten became the manager of the Dodgers, and he had been the tribe coach. The 1947 season, the St. Louis Cardinals players, some of them planned a strike trying to oust Jackie Robinson from baseball. The National League president, Ford Frick, threatened to suspend the players, and there was no strike. Jackie Robinson led the Dodgers in hits, runs, and stolen bases. He also was hit by the pitch 6 times in his first 36 games. September 23rd, there was Jackie Robinson Day at Ebbets Field, and it was sold out. Robinson remembered, quote, "There to honor me was Ralph Branca of New York, and Joe Hatton of Iowa, and Clint Hartung of Texas, and even Dixie Walker of Alabama. I looked at the Dodger box. It was all so beautiful. Democracy, decency, sanity. My wife Rachel in the Dodger box was crying." That was really something. Fiorella LaGuardia, the mayor of New York City, from 1934 to 1945, died of cancer on September 20th, 1947. He was very beloved. Now, in the World Series, Cookie Lavagetto had a game-winning hit for the Dodgers in Game 4, and Al Gianfrido had a game-saving catch on a Joe DiMaggio blast in Game 6. So those were very memorable moments, although the Yankees eventually won the World Series in 7. The MVPs in 1947 for the American League, Joe DiMaggio of the New York Yankees, and in the National League, Bob Elliott of the Boston Braves. So that's the story of the 1947 Cleveland Indians. What a year, tremendous year. The arrival of Bill Veeck and the arrival of Larry Doby in Cleveland. And they were 1 year away from winning the World Series. God bless the fellows who played for the Cleveland Indians in 1947 and everyone else associated with the team, including the fans, especially the Spanish-American War veterans, First World War veterans, and Second World War veterans. Captains of the Cuyahoga, lovers of Lake Erie, Terminal Tower Power, fans of the Free Stamp statue and the Fountain of Eternal Life, Euclid Avenue Electricity, Severance Hall stalwarts, Cleveland Museum of Art enthusiasts, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Museum rebels, Christmas Story House happy people, Museum of Contemporary Art maniacs, Cleveland Botanical Garden goers, Old Arcade admirers, Playhouse Square seers, Western Reserve Historical Society wonders, First Energy Stadium friends, Progressive Field pals, Quicken Loans Arena enthusiasts, Cuyahoga Valley National Park pioneers, and Great Lakes Science Center supporters. Cleveland is the best location. Tribe, Browns, Cavs, Munsters, and Gladiators rule, and fusion. Cleveland, City of Champions. Cleveland is the best location in the nation on the north coast of America. New York is the Big Apple. Cleveland is a plum. The The Tribe's having a good year. I think we're in first place. This is our year. Go Tribe. Actually, that slogan, Cleveland is the best location in the nation, I believe goes back to 1947. Yeah. So anyway, you might consider checking out our website, Adventures in History with Peter J. Ray at peterjray.com. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. God bless you. Take care, and I'll see you next time.